Hi guys, so welcome to our first lesson of Algebra 2. And so what these videos are going to do is I'm going to walk you through the examples of the book, of the Algebra 2 book, as well as explain the check your progress questions after you answer them. Okay. Because this is Algebra 2, I'm probably not going to go over the vocab as much because most of the vocabulary you should recognize from your Algebra 1 class or your geometry class or your pre-algebra class. Okay, so I'm not really going to go over it. How I suggest you do the videos is that you open your book and do the video kind of at the same time as we go over it. So that way you can fill in your vocab sheet as well as read through some of the things that I might not go over. However, I will go over all of the example questions, and occasionally if there's some key vocabulary that I really want to highlight or talk about, I will do that as well. Okay, so we're starting off with 1-1, which is expressions and formulas. I'm not going to go over the vocab here, but as you can see, you'll have your vocab words highlighted in yellow often or in a box, and then you'll write down the definition as long as the page numbers, right? So for example, the first vocab word is variables, and the definition is that they are symbols, usually letters, used to represent unknown quantities. Okay? And then you'll either provide an example or answer my example question. Sometimes the examples are the example questions. Sometimes they'll actually give you some examples as well. Okay, but like I said, I'm not really going to go over vocabulary, but you can easily see that in the book as you go through it. And they are always in order. Okay, so I'm going to start off with example 1. Okay, so example 1 here asks you to evaluate the algebraic expression. So the first one is m plus the quantity of n minus 1 squared. We're told that m equals 3. And so wherever n is, I'm going to replace it with a 3. Right? And then we're also told that n equals -4. And so wherever n is, I'm going to replace it with -4. Okay? So here, starting with m is 3, so replace it with 3, plus n is -4, so I'm going to replace that with -4. Okay, and then everything that I haven't done or touched, I'm going to copy it over again. Okay, so oftentimes students make a mistake because they end up forgetting to copy something, right? So again, if you didn't touch it or if you didn't do that operation, you should be copying it again in the line below. Okay, so now we're just following order of operations. So grouping or parentheses comes first. -4 minus 1 is -5, so 3 plus -5 squared. Note that anything I didn't do, I'm going to copy over again. Okay, so running out of space, I'm going to continue. Okay, next is exponents. So -5 squared is -5 times -5, which is 25, so 3 plus 25. Note, I did not touch the 3 yet, so I'm going to copy it again. Okay, and then 3 plus 25 is 28. Okay, and there you go. Okay, so same thing with the next one. So here I have x squared minus y times the quantity of x plus y. I am told that x equals 8 and y equals 1.5. So wherever x is, I'm going to replace it with an 8. Wherever y is, I'll replace it with a 1.5. Okay. So again, see here, wherever x is, I replaced it with an 8. And then wherever y is, I replaced it with a 1.5. Okay. And then again, anything that I didn't do, I copy over again. Okay. So first thing, order of operations now, we're going to go with parentheses or grouping first. So 8 plus 1.5 is 9.5. Okay. Then exponents comes before multiplication. So 8 squared is 8 times 8, which is 64. Right? Again, anything I didn't touch, I'm going to copy again. Okay. Next is multiplication. So here 1.5 times 9.5, or this is a negative 1.5 times 9.5, is negative 14.25. So 14.25. And then 64 minus 14.25 is 49.75. And there you go. Okay. And then the last part of example 1. Okay. This time I have an A, B, and C. Okay, so wherever A is, I'm replacing it with a 2. Wherever B is, I'm replacing it with a negative 4. And wherever C is, I'm replacing it with a negative 3. Okay. So A cubed is 2. So 2 cubed plus 2. B is negative 4. C is negative 3. Okay. And then C squared is negative, or C is negative 3 squared minus 5. Okay. So again, wherever A is, I replaced it with a 2. Wherever B is, I replaced it with a negative 4. And then wherever C is, I replaced it with a negative 3. Here and here. Okay. Now, order of operations. So there isn't any grouping. So we're going to start with our exponents. So 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, right? 3 times. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Okay. Then whatever I haven't done, I copy it over again. Okay. I have another exponent here. Negative 3 squared is negative 3 times negative 3, which is 9. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my multiplication. Okay. So 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 3 is a positive 24. So it's going to be a plus 24. Okay. And then the last part is that addition subtraction. Okay. 8 plus 24 is 32. 9 minus 5 is 4. And then here, fractions are division problems. So 32 divided by 4 is 8. Okay. The reason why I didn't do the divide, even though divide comes before, right, addition and subtraction, the reason why is because fractions here, what they are is they are an invisible grouping, right? So really, the numerator has a grouping symbol around it, an invisible one, and so does the denominator, right? And so that's why, essentially, oh, my pen's dying, right? I have to do this grouping before I do this division. Okay. So you're going to do the check your progress next on your own, enter your answer in, and then come and check here for your answer. Okay, so for 1A, you should have gotten 28. For 1B, you should have gotten 22. And for 1C, you should have gotten negative 2. If you got these correct, you can move on and go to example 2. If you didn't, you would probably want to listen to the explanation of it. Okay? So 1A here, we know that m is 12 and n equals negative 1. So wherever m is, I replace it with 12. Wherever n is, I replace it with negative 1. Right? Then I did the grouping, 3 minus negative 1, minus a negative is plus, so 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay? Then I did the exponent, 4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16, and then last 12 plus 16 is 28. Okay? For 1b, x is 4 and y is 0.5, so I replace the x's with 4s, and I replace the y's with 0.5. Then I did grouping first, so 4 minus 0.5 is 3.5. Okay. Then I did the exponent, 4 squared is 16. Right? And then I did the multiplication, 16 times 0.5, half of 16, right? 0.5 is half. Half of 16 is 8. 4 times 3.5 is 14. And then last is the addition, 8 plus 14 is 22. Okay. For 1C here, A is negative 1, B is 2, and C is 8. Okay. Started off with exponents, so 2 squared is 4. Negative 1 squared is negative 1 times negative 1, so that's a positive 1. And then 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, and that gives me 8. Okay. Then next is multiplication, so negative 3 times 1 times 8 is negative 24. 4 minus 24 is negative 20. 8 plus 2 is 10. And then last is the division here. Negative 20 divided by 10 is negative 2. Okay? Okay, so the next part is example 2, which is using a formula, right? So now if you follow along in the book, right, I just finished example 1. We did your check your progress for 1A, 1B, 1C, okay? Here, next you would see the definition for formula. You would write the definition, write an example of a formula or whatever the example question asks. And now we're moving on to example 2, and then we'll do our check your progress for number 2. Okay, okay, so here with number 2. It says the formula for the area A of a trapezoid is A equals 1/2 H times the quantity of B sub 1 plus B sub 2, where H represents the height, B sub 1 and B sub 2 represent the measure of the bases, and so we want to find the area of the trapezoid shown below. Okay, so here, first we know that H is the height, okay, and so if we want to find the area of the trapezoid, we're going to find what the height is, and so in this case, this is 10 inches, that's the height, okay, and then the other thing it tells us is that B sub 1 is the measure of the bases. So pick whichever one you want to be base sub 1. Let's just do this one. So I'm going to replace it with 52 inches. Okay. And then B sub 2 here is the other measure of the base. So in this case, we're doing this one, which is 16. Okay. So all I'm doing is plugging it in. So the area of the trapezoid is 1/2. The height, which is 10 inches, not pens dying. And then base sub 1, which I chose to be 52 inches, plus base sub 2, which is 16 inches. Okay. In case you're wondering where I got that, the 10 inches comes from the height. The base sub 1, the 52 inches, comes from this. And then B sub 2, measure the base 2 is 16 inches, comes here. Okay. So now, let's do the math. So starting with our grouping, 52 inches plus 16 inches is 68 inches. And then again, everything I didn't touch, I'm going to copy it below. So 1/2, 2 inches. Okay. Then, now, next is multiplication. So half of 10 inches is 5 inches. And then 5 inches times 68, 5 times 68 is 340. And then inches times inches becomes inches squared. Okay. Note the square goes with the inches, not the 340. Okay. So the area of the trapezoid is 340 inches squared. Okay. Sometimes in word problems, I would also want you to write a sentence. So the area of the trapezoid is 340 inches squared. Okay, there you go. Okay, so now you're gonna do the check your progress here, enter in your answer, and then once you enter it, check to see if it's correct. Okay, for your answer, you should have gotten 28 feet cubed. Okay? If you got it right, then you're done and you can move on to the homework. If you didn't get it right, then you might want to listen to the explanation. Okay? Okay, so the formula for the volume B of a rectangular prism is V equals LWH, where L represents the length, W represents the height, and W represents the width, and H represents the height. Find the volume of a rectangular prism with a length of 4 feet, a width of 2 feet, and a height of 3.5 feet. Okay, so all I did is I took this formula and I replaced what information I did know, right? Since I'm finding the volume, I want the volume formula. Okay, equals L is length, right? Represents length, and I'm told length is 4 feet, so I replaced L with 4 feet. Okay. The W represents the width, and I know I have a width of 2 feet, so I replaced the W with 2 feet. Okay, and then last is the H. H represents the height, and I have a height of 3.5 feet, so I replaced the H with 3.5 feet. Okay, Then I multiplied, right, since this is all multiplication. So 4 times 2 times 3.5 is 28. And then feet times feet times feet is feet cubed. Note the cube only goes with the feet, not the 28. Okay. Normally our volume is in units cubed. That's why it's feet cubed. And then I just wrote my answer in a sentence. Okay. That's it for today. Have a great rest of the day. Bye, guys.